I care deeply about what happens in America for a lot of reasons, partly because I know a lot of people, but also just from a human being to other human beings. When something's going on in the world that's difficult, we care, engage with each other. As we're working with this, just to really be focusing on what's happening in my body right now after the US election. Resmaa Menakem is a somatic experiencing person. He's a very experienced trauma therapist. My Grandmother's Hands has been on the New York Times bestseller list. The book that he wrote, The Quaking of America, sounds very startling, that title. But in fact, it's all about regulating and strengthening our nervous systems in order to cope with reality, what's happening right now in the world, what's happening in our personal lives, what's happening in our system. How can we have enough strength and groundedness in our own nervous system to really stay present to ourselves and each other, to feel all of the legitimate feelings that we're feeling, and to not go into objectification and dehumanizing and all of the things that we're seeing around us? The Quaking of America that he wrote in 2017 says Americans have reached a point of peril and possibility. And I would add that it's not just Americans. This is happening all over the world. A lot of cultures, there's a division, there's a lot of people not able to really connect with each other. So this isn't just Americans. So Americans have reached a point of peril and possibility. We will either grow up or grow smaller. This trauma will either burst forth in an explosion of dirty pain or provide the necessary energy and heat for white Americans to move through clean pain and heal. It may be that a huge nationwide explosion of dirty pain will be followed by a period of intense growth and renewal. You and I can't know how all of this will play out. We're back to the uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen. We're working with metabolizing the experiences we're having right now in our body. The clean pain, and this is also from Resmaa, facing what we don't want to face, what we reflexively avoid or we flee from. Choosing integrity over fear, which kind of assumes that there's some degree of regulation here, of nervous system regulation. Letting go of what is familiar but harmful, finding the best parts of ourselves, and making a leap with no guarantee of safety or praise. So this applies to all of us. We all have tendencies towards clean pain, to wanting to metabolize this, to wanting to be our best selves. These are some of the ways that we can do that. Stand in our integrity, accept the discomfort. Reading the election results and seeing how many white people voted for Trump was not a proud moment for me as a white person. It was very distressing that so many people would see that that's the person that they wanted to vote for. And I don't want to bring my personal views and who I would have voted for into this, but just as an example of accepting the discomfort, what we're looking at is some really clear indications of where people are. And can we be present with that? And then move forward into the unknown. And our nervous systems don't like the unknown, that's for sure. Dirty pain, avoidance, blame, denial, and we respond from our wounded parts, and we generally create more pain. There's that saying, hurt people hurt people. We might be unable to acknowledge that we benefit from systemic oppression of other people. And some of these, gender, race, class, and other, we are oppressed by. Dirty pain is when we can't acknowledge the reality of the situation. We might have that ugly sympathy, poor you, where we get to feel a little bit elevated over the person who's suffering. And we can't really look at the complexity of the situation. White fragility is a term that's been around for a long time. And part of it means is that we don't somehow have the resources to be present with what is, that we're trying to make it different somehow. We might turn into self-hate. I'm so awful, internalized bias, oppression. It might be jealousy. We kind of get mad or denigrate people doing better than us. And we're extremely reactive. A lot of these come back to where are we in our nervous system? So it could be talking but not listening, denying that other people have the experience that they have, trying to explain it, going into theory, and falling for some of these objectifications and false narratives like Black people don't work as hard as white people. There's a lot of those that are just out there in the air. It takes a lot of awareness to really be looking at those. Am I blaming other people? Am I falling for some of those stereotypes that, in fact, are not true? And violence. Violence is an expression of dirty pain as well. So, what I wanted to really spend our time on today is this somatic metabolizing of what our experience is. I'm going to read these words. If you would rather read them yourself or as well read them yourself, go ahead and do that. And as we do this, this is a somatic experience. We're noticing how we feel in our body. These are the suggestions from Resmaa about what to pay attention to: vibrations, images, thoughts. If we have the impulse to move, emotions, sensations. Are we checking out? Are we going into the fight, flight, freeze, fawn? So we'll do that somatic awareness. So if you want to just kind of sit back and take a few breaths, you could close your eyes if you want, or you could journal as you're doing this, whatever works best for you. The reckoning is here. The reckoning is here. The reckoning is here. Stay in touch with your body, your breath. Notice how that feels to hear those words. I live in a time of great peril and great possibility. I live in a time of great peril and great possibility. I live in a time of great peril and great possibility. Notice if you've relaxed a little, if you've tightened up a little, what's happening with your breath. If you wanted to look around the room, anchor yourself a bit, hold your own hands. We do all of these things to keep ourselves here, grounded. I do not and I cannot know what will emerge. I do not and cannot know what will emerge. I do not and cannot know what will emerge. Let yourself notice the response to that. Your breath, your body, thoughts. If you're going into catastrophic thinking, notice that and come back. As the future unfolds, I will act from the best parts of myself. As the future unfolds, I will act from the best parts of myself. As the future unfolds, I will act from the best parts of myself. And what are you experiencing in your body? Each of those 4 sentences evoked a different response. And having heard all 4, let's just sit with this in our body for a bit. What are your impulses, emotions, sensations, thoughts? If you want to move, go ahead. If you want to put your hands on your body, go ahead. So we might scan our body and just notice if there's any parts of our body that want to be touched. We could use one hand or both. Most of us are very familiar with putting some pressure on our heart's area, the chest. Also, maybe with holding our hands or giving ourselves a hug. But if there's an area in your body where you're feeling a lot of sensation, use one or both hands, or you might just hover a little bit above that area. Maybe it's your jaw, your heart, your gut. Let's give ourselves a couple of minutes. You can scan those sentences again. It's really tuning inward. What is your response right now? What's happening in your body? And as you're noticing, take a few breaths, look around the room. We don't need to force a reckoning here. We're metabolizing what's coming up. So you could move, you could take a few deeper breaths, you can bring your arms up above your head, let yourself open up a bit in the chest. Do something that's helpful, even as you're paying attention. I will act from the best parts of myself is very interesting. We all have that heartfelt desire to do that. And we have a nervous system that's feeling whatever it's feeling. There's a lot going on there. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's go up to the slide on clean pain for a moment. And now that we've read and listened to those and felt that in our body, clean pain is facing what we don't want to face, what we avoid. And this doesn't mean that we can't take a break. It doesn't mean that we have to be thinking about this all the time. There's that kind of drivenness that's not helpful. Facing, choosing integrity over fear. We want to do this from a more settled nervous system. We literally can't do it if we're in a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But notice if there's any of these that kind of resonating with you, that are a bit appealing. Stand in our integrity, accept the discomfort, and move forward into the unknown. And notice your response to those. And let's think ahead a little bit to a few weeks from now, a few months from now. The practice I did earlier in the week around what we are carrying is relevant to this as well. Can I stand in my integrity and accept the discomfort of what it is that I'm learning in this moment, of what it is that we're facing, that we don't know what's going to happen? And there's a great possibility here. This nervous system regulating and staying out of disconnection, out of hatred, out of objectifying other people is really important all the time. And it's especially valuable right now. What does that feel like in your body to feel into that? What is my capacity for that right now? It really means I'm able to be present. Over the next weeks and months, I can shift how I am in the world in response to what I feel right now. We need to work with shame, with anger, with blame, with disconnection, with all kinds of things in order to have the stability to be here. And none of us are doing this perfectly. I'm certainly not. How can we support ourselves the best we can? And let's come back into what would you like to do with your body right now? Are you breathing? So we could take some breaths if we would like to do that. Maybe we could do a little bit of cyclic sighing, breathing in through the nose and then again through the nose. A long exhale like we're breathing out through a thin straw. We need to support ourselves in this. to build the strength and resilience to be able to tolerate what's here. The deep, double inhales, long, slow exhales. Or maybe that's not what really helps for you. Maybe it's something else. You might get up and do a bit of shaking. Or let's take a moment to nurture ourselves, increase our regulation, our grounding, our centeredness. We have something really challenging that we're in right now and that is ahead of us right now. The world we want to live in takes a lot of effort, and we're not alone. We have a lot of people that want to do this as well. And how can we help ourselves with that? How can we be stronger? One of the ways we do that is to do this ongoing nervous system regulation. If there's any shaming or inner critic or, well, you should have done this or you should have paid more attention before or, whatever that might be, see if you could put that aside. That's not helpful. Right now, we're just here, standing in our integrity. And there might need to be some assessment and realignment around that. That's true. Accept the discomfort. There's a lot of harm that's going on right now. A lot of people are scared. We might be really angry. There might be a rift in our family. We might be really noticing I have a limited capacity right now. I don't want to engage with this right now. I'm just going to give myself a little rest, and that's okay too. We need to be strong to have the capacity to move forward into the unknown. Let's go back to this. And I'm going to say the words again, one time through. Notice now, what is your response? The reckoning is here. I live in a time of great peril and great possibility. I do not and cannot know what will emerge. As the future unfolds, I will act from the best parts of myself. And again, noticing the somatic mindfulness. What do you feel? Sensations, emotions, thoughts. Notice if there's part of your body that wants to be held, touched. And from here, make a plan to strengthen and help ourselves be more resilient, to really look into what is going on, what is the truth of what's going on, what is my part in that, what part could I play in that, and how can I bring forward this best parts of myself to do this really important and wonderful work of changing the world. That's really what we're doing here. From our own foundation of goodness and grounded and centered, we can act from the best parts of ourselves with each other. And how can we best support ourselves doing that?